Right, hi guys. So welcome to the world of darkness. So this shot here is shot on the Sony Rx10 Mark IV. And you're probably thinking, what? What? Basically, I'm going to look at the difference between RAW and JPEGs, because there's a lot of people out there who swear that the JPEGs are absolutely fine. They think they're just as good as the RAW images that the Rx10 Mark IV can produce. Well, I'm not disagreeing with that, because at the end of the day, I'm now looking at this for the first time. I've not really done any comparisons before, so I couldn't really say, actually, you're right or you're wrong. So it's just an interesting test or example to see what is actually achievable by having the raw image. I'm not saying that, if you like using JPEGs and you don't like the editing side of things and you just want to use it and get the shots that you like, absolutely amazing. It's not really an issue. For me, I've shot RAW for years, and when you've shot RAW, I find you have a lot more control over the image, and you kind of end up, especially if you've been shooting in manual as well, you kind of end up with the images that you really wanted in the first place, rather than something that maybe a computer has dealt with on its own choices and things like that. So, for me, this is how I work, and this is how I like it. And like I say, if you do it differently, it's not wrong. It's totally up to you. End of the day, they wouldn't have put these options in the camera if they thought they weren't going to be used. So, the fact is that you can either shoot JPEG, or you can shoot RAW, or you can shoot RAW and JPEG to give you the flexibility that you want. So, but I just thought it'd be interesting to see, the real extent of, that extra oomph that the RAW side of things can give you over JPEG. Like I say, it's the first time I've looked at this. So this is the JPEG. It was shot at what are we looking? 1/4000th of a second, f4, ISO 100, and I had high-speed sync flash on, wireless off-camera flash, but I left the flash lower, so basically it wasn't really going to do much, but it's going to do something. Hopefully put a little bit of light into the image that it might have actually picked up on, but we shall see. Obviously completely underexposed, so like I say, the shutter speed is 1/4000th per second, f4, ISO 100. The main benefit of the RX10 series cameras is they have a leaf shutter, so you actually have a sync speed, a natural sync speed, or native sync speed, or whatever you want to call it, of up to 1/1000th of a second. So with no high speed sync needed, you actually have up to 1/1000th of a second shutter speed. So the brand new Sony A1, which is like £6,500, that's got a sync speed of 1/400th of a second. So yeah, amazing. But end of the day, the RX10 can do 1,000 without hitting high speed sync. So we have some benefits there. The downside of it is we only have 1 to 2 frames per second, I think, maybe 3 at a push, where obviously the A1, for example, can do 20, 30 or whatever. My A7R4 can do 10 in as a burst, so I generally use that for flash work. So anyway, back to the actual image itself. This is where I'm going to push the sensor to its full ability. So heavily underexposed image, what details it actually captured, and this is where crazy technology comes into play. So we're going to go to image. I'm just going to click auto tone and see what happens. Okay, there you go. So some cheddars. That's an auto tone. So basically that is what you might do. Adjust, maybe do some adjustments. I'm going to go back to what I did. I'm actually going to go to filter. I'm actually going to go to raw. So we've actually got a lot more control here. Obviously this is still a JPEG, but we shall see. So clicking auto did nothing. So we can bring up the exposure quite nicely. Highlights and don't do anything. The whites. There we go, bringing up some colour now, bring the colour out. Quite amazing actually how how it's even there. So actually, depending on what we're doing, we can pull back. You can see some really, really messy artifacts and grain and just mess really. I mean, I'm not expecting it to be super clean or anything like that. I mean, you can see we've taken an image that was completely underexposed and brought something out of it, which is bonkers. Yeah, I've done this before with other cameras, but I just thought, Joe, I've not actually done this with a small 1-inch sensor camera. This is a JPEG at the minute, so it'll be interesting to see how the raw image does it. So anyway, let's do that. Anyway, so we can crank up a bit of clarity, see what it's going to be. Maybe not. A bit of noise control. 37. A bit of noise reduction in colour. Just end up with a soft, horrible image now. Not bad. It's not bad. I think that's possibly as good as we're going to get without starting to crank it up too much. So I think I'll leave it there. I mean, obviously we can adjust color temperature and stuff, but it's probably about right at 0. So yeah, we'll leave it like that for the minute. And we've got an image. You start to look at it and you think, okay, well, rightio. So putting that through Photoshop, that's what we end up with. So open up a raw image. Straight away I can actually see some detail. I can see some detail. So I'll do... That's applying the same settings, I think. Yeah, that's applying the same settings that the JPEG has just had. So yeah, interesting. That's a lot brighter. I'm actually going to bring them down the sharpening and the noise reduction up a little bit. I'm actually going to, what else have we got here? The blacks. Bring down the clarity a little bit because there's actually quite a bit there. We've got a green haze. Don't really know why. Possibly from the light, the flash going off. Don't really know there, but we can go into color mixer and actually reduce down the green. Let's see what we get there. Already. I'm not going to do too much to it because I think we'll end up ruining it a bit. But to be fair, I think that's probably as good as we're going to get. So not looking at, so let's open this up. We're not looking at the physical cleanliness of the shot. You know, we're looking at actually the fact that I've just brought this out of nowhere. And what you can do with a JPEG and what you can do with a raw image is pretty much that. Literally, that is the difference. So I used exactly the same settings and tweaked them down actually. So I actually brought them down quite a few bits. So yeah, I personally think that's pretty accurate on how much more detail the raw image has actually held back compared to the JPEG. The thing is, when you take a picture in the camera, if you're shooting JPEG, the camera sorts it all out for you, compresses the image, and throws away all the crap it doesn't need, and then saves it. So size-wise, just to show you what it is, size-wise is. So the raw image, which is obviously the same settings, everything the same picture. Yeah, it's exactly the same photo. Yeah. The actual image size was 5. So looking at the pixels here, 5472 by 3648, and it was 19.49 megabytes. RGB colors, f4 14,000 per second, ISO 100. 16-bit color depth, so it's a 16-bit image, fully RGB. And that's how I shoot, because I use professional printers and my cameras basically have the same color profile, everything is theirs. So and then we go to the JPEG. We have the same size resolution, 5472 3648. The image size though is 1.87 megabytes compared to 19.49. So that's where the difference is. Obviously, it's a much smaller file size than some of them may be because there was no detail. It was just a black image. So there was no detail there, so it didn't keep anything. It's at 350 ppi, pixels per inch on the JPEG. I don't actually know what the RAW is. Here, look. 300. So slightly lower pixels per inch, but as the RAW goes, that's what it is. So like I say, dimensions in inches, 15.6 by 10.4. Didn't she tell me? Size again. So we've got the JPEG is 15.6 inches by 10.4, where the RAW images is 12.16 by 18. So actually the RAW image itself is also larger in size, physical size. Remember, I haven't actually cropped this or anything like that. So that's another thing to take into consideration. You'll actually be able to print larger from a RAW image than you would actually a JPEG. So it's just something else that I've never really looked at actually. And we've also got an 8-bit depth as compared to the 16-bit depth from the RAW. So JPEG is half the bit rate, and its color profile is RGB still. So quite interesting. Just as literally just a little test really, but quite interesting the fact that it is different. The size, the actual initial size is actually different. So that's interesting to know as well, because I've never realised that. But like I say, I shoot RAW all the time, so that's actually quite an interesting thing there. So anyway, those two shots are there. They're there for a minute, and I'll open up. So we're going to look at the other side of this now. So I've overexposed a couple of shots here. So we have, in fact, actually, let's do this again. Put that down for a minute. So, oh, it doesn't open in RAW, does it? I forget about that. Anyway, so this is another shot here, and I've actually overexposed it on purpose to go the other way. So I haven't gone mega, because if you do overexpose, you're going to really not have any detail. You're actually better off underexposing and pulling up the shadows a bit. So if you're ever afraid of shooting a little bit underexposed, so for example, if you've got a bird that's sitting in the shade a little bit, but you're a little bit worried about upping the ISO, anything like that, you can actually shoot a little bit faster shutter speed to keep your steady shot, and actually up the exposure later on a little bit. So you've actually got quite, especially shooting in RAW, you've got a lot more control over that image. So imagine what I've just done a minute ago, where we've gone from a completely underexposed image and brought it right up. I mean, it's way over what we'd ever do, but it's allowed us to actually bring back an image that is not usable. But if you're only like one stop or something like that, or even half a stop, or even a quarter of a stop under, having a faster shutter speed sometimes actually is the benefit side, and you can actually bring the image back up to what you wanted to see with no real quality loss at all. So anyway, let's have a look at this. So this is the RAW image this time. So I'm just going to click auto level and see what happens. There you go, pretty much sorts it out. It's reduced the exposure a little bit, contrast, highlights have been brought down, shadows, whites and everything like that. So I'm just going to open that because, to be honest, that's pretty bang on. There we go. So we're going to lose these two actually. That way. So this is now the overexposed JPEG. This will be interesting to see what this is going to do. I'm just going to go auto. Not bad, but as you can see here, it's blown the whites out quite badly. So I don't know if I can pull them in. I don't know if we're going to be able to. Yeah, as you can see there, if I've gone a bit extreme there, but it's really showing the lack of detail in the white areas there. So that's the real difference there, guys. I think let's shut it down for a second. go back to thing. Even though you might think that's actually quite a bit, you can actually see the detail in the white area there quite a bit better than. Do that again. Oh, well, wrong way to do. I didn't open it, that's why. So that is the difference. Yeah, we've overexposed it. We can't bring it 100% back, but you've got a much cleaner, bit more detail there. You can see on here, this area, the whites, there is some detail of the biscuit there. I thought this is, I know it's a random thing, but you can see it completely blown out. Can't bring that back at all. And over here, completely washed out as well. So if I just go in between, actually, I know it's not perfect, but yeah, see the difference, much more white compared to quite a bit more detail there. So there are benefits of shooting raw. Like I say, it's totally up to you. I'm not moaning at anybody, I'm not slagging anybody off or anything like that. If you want to shoot JPEG, you go for it. It's absolutely fine. But I'm just having a look for myself, if anything, and if this can help anybody make a decision on how to shoot their camera, and if they want to shoot raw, there is some benefits there. It does give us, you know, quite a bit more control, and obviously gives us more control in bringing things back. If we've overexposed a little bit or underexposed a lot, we can actually bring that back quite a bit. So yeah, it is a different scenario. Some people don't like editing. Some people just want to take a picture and, you know, have some pictures, and they're happy to have them as they are out of the camera. To be honest, I don't do much editing. I do a little bit of tweaking, a bit like this, just adjusting the levels a little bit to make sure they're bang on. Other than that, don't really touch them very much. So, oh, I can't come over. Just want to show you side by side, guys. There you go. It's pretty close. Color wise, don't know if that's me not getting the settings quite right, but you can see straight away there's a lot more detail here, and obviously it's brought back that area there quite nicely. There we go. So you can see it's a lot more blown out compared to this one here, and the whites there are blown out. So like I say, you've got a lot more control. Just a quick test, just to see for myself, if anything, to see what the real difference was. And again, the actual image size is different. So your physical size is a good, what's it say? Okay. Yeah, 15.6 inches by 10.4 is your 100% size, image size. And where you've got 18 by 12, basically. 18 point something. So yeah, there's definitely a win-win situation for the raw size. I don't know why they're different sizes. I presume it just compresses it a little bit to keep the sizes down. I'm not really sure. So like I say, if we go into here, yeah, 18.24 by 12.16. That's probably just, I tell you what, that's actually that even bigger, wouldn't it? Yeah. So yeah, so the JPEG is 15.6, like I said, by 10.4, while we've got 18.24 and 12.16. So I know it's a couple of inches extra each end of the scale, but that's the difference in more detail and a slightly larger print size if you want to go that big or bigger. I've printed I have got a video on here somewhere down the line, long way now, but I have actually printed A1 quite happily with the RX10 Mark IV. Totally fine, no issues whatsoever. So, you know, and that was from raw. I don't know if anybody else has printed bigger than that. I might actually do at some point once I can get to a printers, one of the printers I use, to go as big as we can. See what happens. Could be interesting. So, there guys, I just thought that was interesting to see. So both scales, from overexposure to underexposure, and bringing them back from that, just to see what we could actually capture and what the difference was. So I hope that was interesting, or an eye-opener of some sort, and makes you you know, maybe understand a little bit more about RAW versus JPEG. Certainly, I learned a couple of things today. Didn't realise that actually JPEGs were smaller, physical size. So even though they're pixels per inch or more compared to their actual image size. Don't know the reason for that. Someone might actually know that. If you do, leave a comment below, that'd be great. Other than that, guys, don't forget to click the subscribe button, the little notification bell as well. Also, share this with your friends, anybody else who uses the RX10 series or anything like that. That'd be great. And if you've got any questions about any other things, or if you want me to make some videos about the RX10, you know, if you're stuck with something, a particular function of the camera, and I can help you, I can try and do a video just explaining things, this, that, and the other. Feel free to ask, and I shall see what I can do. Can't make any promises, but you know, if I can do them, I will. Other than that, guys, it's another video done. So anyway, I shall see you soon, and like I say, don't forget to click the subscribe button and the little notification bell, and ta-ra for now.